Facebook Live going?
Yeah, we're going for
Oh my gosh, look to your right. Look to your right. Oh! No kidding. All right, so, all right, here we are. It's 1:15, Facebook Live. There you go. And we're out here in the atrium. Dr. Price decided to change it up a little bit.
Beautiful new greenery we have.
So we're going to condense these a little bit because we've gone a little deep, haven't we?
Yes, we have.
So we're going to condense them. So I'm going to, my job today in 2 minutes, 1 minute and 30 seconds is to condense everything we've done.
Yeah.
Essentially what we've been talking about so far is how the autonomic nervous system controls and regulates you. It creates what's called vegetative homeostasis. That's what we've been working on. Why is that important? I see a trend here. Why is that? See, hesitation. I'll ask him again. Why is that? Do you see a trend here? And again. So what we've been talking about is the autonomic nervous system is controlling and regulating you. Why is that important? Because you live your life through your nervous system. How do we impact that? That's what we do as chiropractors. Mm-hmm. So what we've been hitting, autonomic nervous system controls you. Why is that important? Because that's how your body can stay in that stress resiliency mode, not stress vulnerability. That way you don't suffer from stress overload syndrome. How do we impact that as your chiropractors? The type of technique we do in our office, very specific adjustments. We have the technology to measure what's going on inside you, whether you're sympathetic dominant or parasympathetic dominant. So here's my advice. We've gone mad the month of March. My advice, call and find out what we mean by that. But get in, get checked so we can see what's going on with you. I'm going to have you touch and you touch. I'll tell them what I want to. Go ahead and whatever you got.
Okay, perfect. So essentially what we look at is how well, mom is being healthy. Because essentially the health of the mom affects the health of the baby. So when mom is overly stressed, her health starts to decline. What do you think is going to happen to the baby? The baby's health is going to decline.
He didn't give me time to hesitate. Ask me that again.
So when the mom's health begins to decline, what happens to the baby's health?
Huh? That was pretty good, wasn't it?
So we digress. So essentially what we look at...
Conversation him and I had like an hour ago. It hadn't sunk in yet.
It's a full hour?
Yeah.
So when the health of the mom declines, the health of the baby declines. And so what we do, not only does that impact the baby in the short term, but also impacts it later in life. So what we do, we check whole families here, make sure everybody stays healthy.
Why do we check whole families?
We check whole families because we love to serve whole families.
And how do we check them?
We check them by looking for vertebral subluxation, that spinal bone misalignment interfering with the nerve system, and its ability to handle stress, so you don't go into that stress overload syndrome.
You guys see the trend here? What, why, and... Oh, I love that. That's crazy, isn't it? Look at that. We've done this in 4 minutes. You got a long time, right? Go.
So this is why we check whole families, so don't wait till you become pregnant to get checked. Make sure you get checked before that. That's why we check kids, starting at little bitty babies to great-great-grandparents. We take care of everybody here because everybody has a spine, everybody has a nerve system, and they need to be checked for subluxation so they can live their optimal life.
So I think, and Dr. Price is going to wind it down. Were you done?
I'm done.
That's quicker than a minute. So kind of what we've been covering these last few weeks is what's called transgenerational stress. That's a fancy word for how the stress in mom or dad, which we covered last week, can actually alter the cortisol levels and then in turn impact that developing child. So when that occurs, or if that occurs, that developing child is already being born with stress vulnerability. That child is already being born in a state of stress overload syndrome. What we want to do as your chiropractor is to make you aware that that can be controlled. And then on top of that, how we check it. Yep. So, look, I see the Jimmy John's guy. Jimmy John's coming in the background. Jimmy John's is here.
Jimmy John's.
Say that's freaky fast. Say that's freaky fast. You're on video right now. Say freaky fast. Come on, just say it. Freaky fast. Can't get him to do it.
So, transgenerational stress, we've talked about that in the past few videos. Stress that's passed on from grandma to mom to baby and then down the line. So when we look at that, like we talked about, looking at how your nerve system's adapting, looking at how well your body's functioning, and see what we can do to help you increase the way that your body functions to minimize the way stress has its effects on your body, as well as the babies. If you think about what we're seeing a huge rise in is babies that have to go into a NICU after they're born. Why is that happening? When we have increased amount of stress in our world and our moms and dads are unable to adapt properly to those stresses, that's being passed on to the baby, which is slowing their development and affecting the development in the womb. And now those children are being born with other issues that are going on that we typically didn't have so much of before because people were adapting much better. Now we're starting to see those loads of stress jumping to levels that our body's not ability to adapt to like it used to be. And now the body's having tough times. So we're seeing these kids who have underdeveloped lungs, issues with their hearts, their bodies and those internal organs are not adapting and growing and developing like they should have. Like we talked about last week with those kids with the big arms and the hindbrain where their body's in a very fight or flight state. That's a lot of these kids. When their body's so stressed out inside mom, it's slowing their development in the womb, and now they're being born with a lot of these issues which are going to affect them lifelong. They're always going to be behind the 8 ball.
So what Dr. Mike is saying, I think I kind of wind it down, because we're going to do these now in 5 to 7 minutes, just because we listen to you. You've been saying speed them up, so we are. Post your questions below, right in here, or send them to us so we can cover them even next week. But we've got about another month probably, but we're going to talk about the stress level being passed on from mom or dad into the developing fetus, developing child, and how it impacts them. The solution is this. Unfortunately, stress is out there in the world. Demands are going to be impacted you, which creates a struggle on you. The solution is this. You can do one of 3 things. Nothing. Add chemicals, which really, that's just masking the symptom.
And creating more chaos.
Thank you very much, more chaos. Or get your autonomic nervous system checked. Because we know that it creates vegetative homeostasis for the organism, which means balance. And by what we do in our office, we have the technology to measure if you're sympathetic dominant or parasympathetic dominant, too fast or too slow. And then we'll put together a tailor-made care plan just for you that's designed to impact the specific nervous system so you live the life that you were born to be, which is optimal function, stress resilient, not living in stress overload syndrome. Good?
Great.
All right.
Love it.
I love the new trees that grew out here yesterday. We'll see you all next week.
See you next week.